we avoid that. First you turn it off, then you turn off the power switch. What can this add up to? Well, $24,500 a year going with that $70 model. Well, so how much is that? In photocopies, that's 1,225,000 photocopies that could be made should we turn off our computers. And I've made it a part of my routine. Just before I go to bed, with my foot, I just reach down and switch off the power switch. And in the morning, I turn it back on. And it saves a huge amount of electricity and a huge amount of money. So turn off your power switches every night, please. That's really the most important thing we could be doing right now at the school to save the environment. Also, most of you guys have been doing a very good job with this, turning off your lights when not in use. And then also, set your thermostats to 68 degrees, please. It's, again, a lot of you have been doing a good job with this, but it makes sense. This doesn't have to do with electricity, more or less gas, but if you're a little chilly, sweatshirts are okay. So, and you can always open the door if it's a little warm too. I skip water because, well, there's not much for me to say except don't waste water. Paper is a big thing at Aragon. One 3-foot stack of newspapers requires 1 whole tree to produce. It adds up very quickly. You just think of something like the New York Times, their publication, and, well, it adds up very quickly. The paper accounts for 40%. The majority of our waste in landfills is paper, and most of it's recyclable. So, what does it look like when we don't recycle paper and we have to make new ones? Just imagine each of these trees being just 1 tree. Losing a forest has a bunch of negative effects, one of which is flash flooding. This is a cement truck in a village in Afghanistan that because they had deforested prior, there was a flash flood, and it pushed the cement truck off the road onto the side. And this can happen anywhere that we deforest, which is very frequently in the United States. So, on the flip side, when we throw paper away, most paper is bleached with chlorine and has toxic inks that leach into groundwater when they're put in landfills. When the water percolates through it, it washes off the poisons and it puts them into our ecosystem. So, the top 10 ways for Aragon at least to save paper. Number 1, double-side printouts. Kind of a no-brainer. It'll cut your usage in half. Number 2, save paper with blank sides for scratch paper and other things like that. Shrink copies. This is not something I don't think a lot of you are familiar with. A couple of my teachers do it where they put 2 pieces of paper onto 1 sheet of paper, like they shrink it down, and it actually is very readable. I have no problem with it. Students don't seem to have a big problem with it. And if you do that for a 4-page document, you can put a 4-page document on 1 piece of paper. So you're cutting your paper usage by 75%, which is huge. So that adds up quickly too. Distribute documents via deadline. Obviously this won't work for a lot of things, but there's various things that we really don't need to write on or have in our binder. Number 5, use class sets when possible. And along those lines, use Scantrons and binder paper for tests. Why print out a 10-page multiple choice packet when you can just use a Scantron? And also reuse those Scantron sheets. Those big sheets have 4 50 question sets. If you have 4 50 question tests, you can have 4 tests on 1 sheet of paper. Or just flip it on the back for the half sheet or whatnot. Unsubscribe from junk mail. The only reason why I said this is because 100 million trees get used for junk mail every year in the United States. And considering this is stuff we don't actually want, that seems even more wasteful. And use a lunchbox. I always say this because a lot of people use paper bags, which cost money after a while and may use. And also along those same lines, drink your to-go coffee in your own mug. I think it tastes better when you're not drinking out of paper and plastic. But you also get a slight discount, I think, at Starbucks at least. So anyway, that adds up to the So, next is glass bottles, cans, etc. So bottles and cans. Specifically plastic. Plastic simply never decomposes, ever. The chemicals in plastics also contaminate landfills, just like paper does. So what happens to plastic that doesn't even get thrown away, though? This is a study. It's very interesting. They found a remote part of the North Pacific, and they dragged a trawl through the water for about a mile or so. And they found 6 times more little tiny microscopic plastic pieces in mass than plankton. And as we know, plankton is the base of the entire food web for the entire aquatic system. So that means fish, just like that bird earlier, are consuming 6 times more non-nutritious mass than food, which is clearly detrimental. And the funny thing is, they chose that location because it was farthest away from any land point, not because they knew they'd find plastic there. So our water reaches everywhere. Everything we put in our water goes everywhere. Problem. In 1 year, plastic water bottle production requires 1.5 million barrels of oil, which is enough to power 100,000 U.S. cars for an entire year. Worldwide, that's 2.7 million tons of plastic. Americans use 4 million plastic bottles per hour. So that's not reason enough. 13% are recycled, so a huge amount don't even get recycled. Most go into landfills or get lit. What does that look like? Well, and what happens when they don't even get thrown away? We have the bird again. So, if that's not reason enough, bottled water costs about 540 times more than average California tap water. And for the small artisanal varieties like Fiji and Evian, or even for the vending machine water that's an astronomical $1 a piece, that can be as high as 10,000 times. And to put that more in perspective, a 5-year supply of bottled water, the recommended intake of 8 glasses a day, can cost more than $1,000. An equivalent amount of tap water costs about, any guesses? Nothing? Well, $40? Who said? Oh, I don't know. $1.65. So, there's your reason not to drink bottled water on a daily basis. So bring your own bottle, and I know that can stand for something else, but bring your own bottle. So some options. A lot of you have Nalgene, which is great. I think you can get those for about $10 or so, give or take a little bit. Also, SIG aluminum, my favorite. They're about $20 a piece. And also, Clean Canteen, which Mr. McGlashan will model for you, is stainless steel. So if you're, I know that there's some like reports that there's plastic leaching and stuff. If you're concerned about that, you can get aluminum and stainless steel for not much more. And the nice thing about this is when I'm done with it, I can just throw it in the recycle bin because it's 100% aluminum. So this doesn't really, you don't drink out of plastic bags, so I kind of slipped this into the presentation just because these numbers are so astounding. An estimated 500 billion to 1 trillion plastic bags are used worldwide each year for a system called a power purchase agreement, whereby a third-party financer will actually purchase, operate, own, and install solar panels on our school, the entire roof. And in return, we pay them for a contract a certain negotiated rate. That's usually about 25% less than what we'd be paying PG&E. So they get the tax write-off and the monthly electricity bill. So they kind of serve as PG&E for us, which is great. We're anticipating a finalized proposal by one company in the week. So that is taking off hopefully. And also with that, we have this whole Solar Schools program that we'd be able to take part in that would show how much energy we're producing. This is all online. We would be able to access it and what that equals in homes and cups of coffee produced and whatnot. So, and the last note, just to say, students really do look up to you. If they see you being waste heavy,
I really have to commend Jason. He's a fantastic role model, and I've learned a lot from him how to be more environmental friendly. So I hope the presentation was helpful.
Yeah, on that note, it takes generally about 6 weeks to get removed from mailing lists. If you don't want, I'm just giving these out. I'm going to try to send an email invitation to this daily email at the sometime this week.